looking for kind of two tracks, potential cash infusion of some amount in lieu of a tax abatement, and then assistance with the redevelopment of the parcels next to you, to the north of you, that would be public parking and also serve your parking.
Yes,
for you.
that's correct.
Okay. We have our tax people, our tax persons
Financial.
are sitting in front of you, and
Tax lady.
tax lady.
Oh,
They,
Oh.
yeah,
I need a shirt
In
with
fact-
that, with your logo.
they have run numbers based upon the prior projections that you gave in terms of what your build out would be, what your inputs would be. And I understand from you that those have changed, have gone up. Can you maybe explain what
Yeah.
changed or what's different?
I think the main thing isn't necessarily the design presented, just the cost of materials. So the bids came back for our project. We were hoping to keep things in that $950 range to in terms of like hard costs to build out the new space. Turns out the building itself isn't structurally where it needs to be to accommodate what we're doing with building. So we're actually going to demolish almost the entire building and rebuild a new building from the ground up. So the bids came back in the 1.5 to 1.8 million range just for hard costs. That's not including the demo. And then that's excluding some of the design contingencies, like adding a pergola to the outside space. So we expect to work some of these costs down, but I think we're going to settle in right around that $1.5 million hard cost build out cost, with another $55,000 to demolish the space as it stands today. Yeah. So it's going to be significantly more expensive than we expected. It'll be a very nice pizza restaurant.
Your square footage will basically stay the same.
Square
right?
footage is the same,
Footprint.
patio size is the same, everything else is exactly the same. Just extremely expensive materials right now.
Okay. Well, those folks have a way of calculating the 25-year life expectancy of the TIF and what the increased AV that you would be bringing would then provide. And that's kind of the bucket that we have available.
Yep.
So they may need to rejig their numbers because they were based on your prior projections.
Okay.
So we probably need a little bit of time for them to rerun that. Heidi can get that to us and let us know what we're looking at, but we want to make sure we know what we have to work with.
Good deal. I can send over a revised budget if that helps.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Line item.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
want to send it to Julie?
If you do that, that would be great. And then on the parking lot, Nathan, we need some guidance from you and guidance from our town council about which track we take with that, right? Track one would be taxman takes the lead on the construction. You bid it out, you do the work, and we contribute financially.
Which-
Track,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
that's okay. Or track two would be the town takes the lead on the construction. And you benefit from that, and we have an agreement between the parties as to how that would work and who has what rights and responsibilities. Do you have a preference on which track we take?
I don't have a strong preference. I would say that we do have a design that is complete. We have bid it out. We have three bids for the project already. So if it was easier and we could expedite it by doing it in the context of the overall project that we already have going on, we'd be happy to do that.
Thoughts, questions? Well, we need to, that's kind of the first fork in the road. We need to decide which route we're taking, because that requires different things from the town in terms of approval process. If it's cash, that goes up one route and goes through a different process with the EDC, and funds are released that way. Or if it's us, then we need to get an agreement put together between the current property owner, you guys, and the town as to exactly who's doing what and when. And just for your information, there is the potential that the town would want to do additional improvements in the alley and perhaps even stormwater improvements would be required in order to even do that work. So we kind of, once we get into that, it may be a little bit bigger project than.
Yeah. I would say if we go down that track, it would likely be better for the town to take that on, not us. Which is, I think that's why I viewed it kind of as two separate buckets to look at, because one, I think it's more straightforward. The other is a little more gray.
Right. Does the board want to authorize a member to negotiate with the property owner and taxman to provide an agreement for the development of the parking lot?
Yeah, I'll authorize a member of the board to, a member of the commission to negotiate with the parties involved.
All right, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Which member? Eric, would you like to take
Sure.
that? Okay.
Sure.
All right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote then, please.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the other component then was the cash item, and then that needed to be updated with our tax folks, so that we're going to table that for now until we get the updated projections, right? Are you okay with that? All right. Anything else on that topic, Nathan? Did we miss anything, or we?
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to just get an idea, are we all in sync from a timing standpoint as far as our process takes months upon months upon months, and he wants us to be done next week? I mean, are we syncing as far as his expectation and what's reality for us? I guess I'm just, for his benefit, curious.
Are there any restrictions on us starting the project and in that conflicting with this authorization?
Just the risk that the money's not there, but yeah.
Okay, we can.
From
handle
my
that
standpoint.
risk.
Yeah, you're not held up by us in
Okay.
terms of starting the work. It's just, you're in the dark up to some
Sure,
point
sure.
about what our contributions are.
And I know with like the tax abatement process, you can't file any permits, you can't do anything until it's approved. This is a different process, it sounds like.
Yeah, you're right.
In our intent is to begin demolition. We probably won't have the building permits for a while, but the building, in the meantime, will be demolished.
We know some people that can help with building permits. All right. Are we all set on that topic? Anything, Nathan, did you have anything else for us, or?
No, the updated numbers, and I think we're sound. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thanks for your patience during the
No, that's
executive
great.
session.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
I really want to-
All right, next item on the agenda, we have a resolution prepared, resolution number 2021-04. That's a resolution of the Town of Hardersville Redevelopment Commission amending and adding to the economic development area. We want to, before we consider that resolution, do we want to go through the meat of it?
Sure.
Yeah, Greg, you haven't met Greg in person, but he's been working
Hello.
diligently behind the scenes for you all. He's with Baker Tilly, works with me. So
Thank you, Julie, for pulling up the map. So, thank you, Heidi. My name is Greg Balsano. I'm with Baker Tilly. I work with Heidi here. So I'm here today. We're kind of going to go through a declaratory resolution, but kind of look through the maps specifically, kind of go through what in general is going on with this declaratory resolution and talk about kind of the general sense of what the summary is of what's going on. So in general, we're making some modifications to the TIF areas, doing some parcel removals, doing some parcel additions, kind of making some cleanups within the TIF areas. Over the last few months, we've been working with Julie and looking at the parcel areas where we could clean some things up, where we could remove some parcels potentially to see where there are areas maybe that aren't going to foresee some development, where it's just kind of hindering the TIF area, maybe losing some value, and also maybe add some areas that could see some value that would be beneficial for the TIF area to have. So again, just doing that kind of cleanup there. So what you're looking at on the screen here is the first map. This is the overall EDA, the economic development area. all the TIF areas. So again, this is a kind of larger piece of the map. We'll kind of go through later on individual pieces, but this is kind of where the individual pieces of where the money can be spent for your TIF areas. So, you have your State Road 37 area, your industrial park allocation area, your industrial park expansion allocation area, the Whiteland Road, State Road 135 allocation area, the expansion allocation area. And then also we're going to get into, there's a couple of expansion allocation areas as well. So.
You can be Vanna. Rich is going to be Vanna White.
So yeah, I mean, again, there's, you can see all the different shades. I know it might be kind of difficult to see the key, but that you got a couple shades of blues, the State Road 37, the industrial park.
I could even go up there and point it out.
Greg, you can drive with the mouse that's.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Oh, and you have a pointer, if you want a pointer, unless you want me to
You
come
can see it.
Vanna White for you up there.
I didn't even see that.
Might as well.
But
Back girl, Vanna White, like
but thank you. So I might even go to the individual maps so it's easier to kind of see, what's going on, so we can kind of zoom in.
So
But
this is your State Road 37.
Yep.
Your industrial park is this blue. Your 135 TIF area is up here, and then this is going to be your new downtown. And you can see they're all connected by a right of way on a road or a railroad track, so you can spend monies wherever, like Greg said, as we've talked about before.
so up here. So yeah, I'm going to kind of go and start. So again, I'm going to kind of go through the individual maps. I think it'll be easier to kind of go through those in detail. So I'm going to start with the State Road 37 area. So this area has not been really seeing much value here. So we kind of talked with Julie, and what we wanted to do here was kind of reset this area, kind of give it a fresh start, clean up some of this area. You can see by the red hashes here that these are some parcels we're looking to remove from the area, parcels that aren't really doing much for this area. In addition, in the documents, you'll see that we're eliminating this area and resetting it. So we're resetting the base value to the 2021 pay 2022 date. So again, this area is being wiped clean and getting a fresh start.
Sorry,
Yes, please stop there.
you're
Yes.
eliminating
Yes.
and resetting.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not going away altogether, we're eliminating the old TIF, that way we can restart it. Get the base.
That's exactly correct.
Minus the red hashed ones.
That's exactly
And,
correct.
One question he had was,
So does it come out of both the EDA and the TIF, or just the TIF?
So great question. So the EDA, and I'll step back. The EDA is the bigger piece. So you have your EDA boundaries where you can spend your money, and you have a smaller boundary. In some cases, it's coterminous where it's the same boundaries where the actual tax increment is generated from. So this is coming out of the EDA, but it's being put right back in. So it's staying within the EDA, but it's also your allocation area here.
so this one is coterminous.
Right.
The EDA and the allocation area is coterminous.
Exactly. And you can also see there's a handful of parcels here that weren't originally in the State Road 37 area. This parcel up here was not in it. And it's now going to be in the State Road 37 area. So again, there are a couple additions, a handful of removals, but these light blue parcels that you see that are not red hashed is what consists of your new State Road 37 area. So again, this is just an area that hasn't seen much go on in the recent years. So we're going to give it kind of a fresh start, clean it up, and hopefully this helps.
Can we scroll up to just so we can
Right
see
again. Yeah,
what's coming out?
the other way.
There we go down.
So her,
Yeah.
her person's now.
Pulling out those.
Coming out is the hash.
Yes.
The hash is coming out.
Yeah, so these are all the are they what remains or?
Yes.
You go the other way.
But yeah, this is the WRC
That's-
site that
that's
we've been in some discussion.
Robin, that's all of it.
Say it again?
I'm making sure Robin knows this area.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
Oh. Is that the right of way take, Julie?
Yes,
And then that's the right of way take?
those are state parcels.
Yeah, these are state-owned parcels here. And there are some state-owned parcels up in here, like 209, 186, 219.
Yeah.
We were gonna take them out, but then we left them in, because really your allocation areas are supposed to be connected. And
Right.
so they can be connected through right of way, which we could have done, But since it's never gonna hurt or help you, because it's always gonna be tax exempt, we just decided to leave them in, so it's just definitely connected.
So this property over here, we need to keep an eye on. I'm not saying to add it,
This-
but I know that they are now actively trying to work on selling that and or developing it.
Okay.
But it'll be in the next 2 years.
So you just need to keep them informed so they can add it to
Well, I mean,
the TIF area
if
at
I
some
get
point.
hit by a bus, yeah. But, I mean, I know that they have a broker and that they're working on trying to develop this ground.
I mean, you guys can, make any amendments to this map, even today, like if you decide to. So if you decide you would want to add it in, we can. I mean, you have no intent at this point to issue any bonds, which would start the life of the TIF area, so the TIF area life won't get started until you decide to issue some bonds. And so, the only thing would be is whatever the base value would be that gets set. If it's like the lowest it could go right now, is it just ag?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just ag.
And I think the new,
So that is the road, the
That's
new
the
road,
new road, so it's really probably just
It's-
that parcel.
6.6 acres, current,
No, to the north.
no, the northern one.
I mean, that to the south is that's all owned by one owner all the way over to here.
Okay.
It falls off the cliff, but that property right there.
Yes,
So you guys can add it, if that's something you wanna do
I
now.
think that one makes sense to add, because it's gonna be, the clover leaf or the exit ramp will be where
Right,
216,
where here, yeah.
217, and 218 are, so
Pretty much, yeah.
that's gonna be pretty ripe for development there, I would think.
Do you think it's gonna go south of that one parcel? South of this? Do you
Maybe.
have your crystal ball?
Well, I mean, they've engaged our company to look at what they could do there.
Okay.
It's
So
tough,
I mean,
it's
we
a
can go
tough
ahead and
site. I
add
mean,
this
part of
one,
it
if you
could be
guys are comfortable with
residential.
that, and then if we need to
That's
have
the
the
only
others.
commercially viable, in my opinion, that's probably the most commercially viable part of the property.
Okay.
But even that might be 5 years out.
But it might be 6 months, right?
I mean, is that possible?
It won't be 6 months.
Okay.
It's not gonna go any less.
Again, you guys don't have any
Value's not gonna
intentions
go
right now to do any improvements in this area, do you? There are no immediate needs for this TIF area as far as
I mean,
financing?
I think adding that little parcel that Andrew's talking about is justifiable, having 183 up at the top. If we're adding 183 up at the top,
I would
this
agree.
small one right here is probably gonna is more apt to have something happen before that one up there, maybe.
I would say anything around that.
Bless you.
Yeah, I would grab,
What is this little sliver?
is
Do you
that
know who
a
owns
separate
that one?
parcel?
I think it's all.
Jill, you have GIS open by chance?
Yeah.
yes, I do, but it's, a little sad right now. I believe that is the state right of way.
Yeah.
This parcel, okay.
Yeah.
So then let's just go ahead and add this one in for now.
Actually, the one, that northern piece is still privately owned. It's, 1.27 acres.
This one right here.
Yes,
I think that's all
So you
part
have
of that.
those two?
Is that all the same owner?
no, that is a different
That's a
owner.
different owner?
Yeah, it's a different owner, that little weird piece, little sliver. 1.27
But it is ag,
acres.
it looks like.
It's-
I think the very combination.
That's the creek though.
Yeah, it
It's not
doesn't look
developable.
viable.
It says undeveloped, unusable.
There you go, don't add that.
Wow.
You have any continuity issues?
So he needs to get the final blessing, but I would say that because you're right here on this road, you can connect it in here. If you want to add this parcel, we would just add a line to connect it up to here.
Yep.
And you'll see we have done that on some of the other TIF areas, which is legal and allowed. He's a lawyer, he's watched it, so.
There he is, get him, get him.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll add that. Any other questions?
This is right away, right? Is that what we said?
That's the new
That's the
on-ramp.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, so those will be pretty useless there.
So make a note of that parcel number for now, because we may have a larger amendment here in a second of other parcels that might be
Oh,
changed.
true.
So make a note of that, and then we'll go on.
Is this, Julie, I know this parcel talked to Joe.
They
Do
have.
I need to copy that under? You got that?
I'm writing down at least the area. It says, you know.
Okay.
We can wait on that. I mean, that's not happening anytime soon.
Any other changes here?
Is 186 the state park? That's the,
It is a state parcel. It's left for connection.
okay.
These are all left right now.
Because
for
of connection,
purposes.
Yep.
And two, because this one will be out on its own and it has no connection even to 144 was really the main where we even started talking about the connectivity piece.
It's weird that they
There's
left
like a
that.
road that connects to it.
That parcel we're talking about that, does a part of that go over into, Warren County? What happens from that?
Which parcel?
We were just talking about that.
That one?
I think it was
Oh,
like
yeah.
bordered by a road.
Huh?
There's a road on the
Well,
other
that's to the
side.
west.
Well, I mean, that's the
Yes.
white area is Morgan County.
My question is, I guess just a general question, when you have a parcel that crosses and goes outside of the town limits, do you only take part of the parcel that's in the town limits, or do you?
That one ends right at the town limits.
It looks like it, the parcel line
But
actually.
to the
ends.
south,
It's
they
not
go-
really, so.
That's probably why you wouldn't mess with the one to the south, because the majority of that parcel is actually in Morgan County. I don't know.
Just all coincidentally
Rich,
stop
how does
right.
that work?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never had that question.
Yeah, I don't know how, you don't either, right? How it works when you have a parcel that's
Crosses.
crosses county line.
I do have GIS open though, which would have the accurate part.
Yeah, but if you go all the way down,
It
every
shows-
one of
Yeah.
those.
Heidi may know the answer to that. Thank
I
you.
don't know.
I mean, we would have expanded the line not to cut a parcel, right? I mean, when that annexation took place, they had to run those.
Yeah,
down
there must be
parcels,
some parcel
right?
split that we don't know
I'm
about.
just not 100% sure that really is.
I would say that GIS is normally accurate with what is like the platted parcel line, so it looks,
The Morgan
I
County
would-
has a different GIS, and the only thing I'm saying is.
okay, yeah, we can check it on the Morgan County side just to see.
My curious was what happens when it goes across?
Because can
They
you
have to sub-
can you
they have
touch
to
a
flat
parcel right
area.
next to
No,
it?
it won't,
That-
because Beacon's only set for Johnson
Okay.
County. It doesn't have.
Yeah,
Morgan.
we can easily check that on the Morgan County side.
But I'm guessing when they set the annexation lines, that they set those at the end of certain, they had to annex a whole parcel. They didn't annex a partial parcel,
That's
right?
a county line, so that it's a weird, doesn't make, I mean, it doesn't follow the river. It must follow some old survey line, is what it is.
That's the end of the township.
Because that basically turns into Banta Road to the south. Eric, if you continue on the county line, that's Banta Road. So like the east side of Banta is Bargersville, and the west side's Morgan County.
I need to excuse myself, so.
Absolutely.
Heidi,
Yes.
the other day, didn't we talk about adding the parcel just south of, I think it's 220?
Julie
Decided-
determined that that was not necessary. This.
Because it's only going to be right of way
Got it.
based on the plat. So that's the entrance to White River Crossing or the Grove or whatever we call it.
What about northeast of 224?
That's been in for rezoning and been denied.
Yeah.
But it could have a more, it could have a more county.
So when it comes
Yeah.
back.
Well, I know there's right now.
Potentially, it just depends on how.
I just don't think when they annexed up there, parcels, right? When they're looking at what to annex, they would have annexed entire parcels, I would think.
Yeah.
That seems weird to them.
Yeah.
To just slice one up.
Follow the county line.
Are there any other comments on this area?
Okay, so I have the one, we'll look into that parcel there and look at the Morgan County GIS, just to double check things and confirm that, so. Moving on from State Road 37, I'm gonna kind of go into the industrial park area, which also includes a new allocation area, the Dressler allocation area, which we'll get into. But first, I just want to kind of touch base on the industrial park allocation area and the expansion industrial park allocation area. So with the expansion allocation area, the original area is down here kind of on the bottom left-hand side of the map. And the expansion is kind of the remainder of the map. There's two allocation areas here. And then this darker blue is a new proposed allocation area that is proposed to be called the Dressler allocation area.
Is that the correct spelling, by the way? Because I've got it wrong, I think. Is it
You
AR?
change it in some places.
I didn't change it.
A is correct.
A
AR.
is right.
So does the resolution says ER, doesn't it?
I thought I changed
I
it.
think
Did
we
you?
changed it.
You did?
multiple- yeah,
Okay,
she
good.
changed it.
I think it was
All right.
changed everywhere except the map.
Okay.
So the Dressler allocation area, now I know after some discussion this morning that there another amendment after talking that probably want to include some of these parcels here within that Dressler allocation area. I think we want to include, yep.
130 and 136 will be a part of this area.
Yep, so that's another, along with the one we just talked about with State Road 37, I think that we want to do that with the Dressler allocation area, if you guys are in agreement with that. Something we had just talked about while we were talking this morning. So in addition, just some other things going on here with the industrial park. So again, similar to State Road 37, we are not resetting this area because this area is generating increment, but we are looking at removing some negative parcels here in the industrial park. We are also looking at removing just some state parcels, just cleaning up some parcels that are not really ever going to see any development, see any value here for you guys. Just kind of cleaning up some administrative things. Those are those hashed things here that we're removing. You can see those lines there. Again, so this lighter blue is going to be what remains in your industrial park allocation areas. The darker blue, and then these parcels that we just spoke about will be what constitutes your new Dressler allocation area. That area, as Heidi kind of mentioned, will have a new life, and that life will not start until you were to ever issue a bond payable from that area, if you were ever to do that down the line.
Question?
Why are we removing 136?
Question is, why are we removing 136?
We are not, that actually, so one change we said, just
Yeah.
that we were gonna make is add 159, 130, and 136 to the Dressler allocation area.
Yeah.
Since those are three of the parcels you were planning to acquire, so
Okay,
they are.
sorry, I missed that.
So the initial pass-through
You say that-
making these decisions was the parcels that were at a negative value were the ones that were removed.
You don't include that in the minutes?
Sorry, say that again.
What she just said. I guess everybody.
You're going to make a motion
We're
here
gonna do it.
that's going to include all this.
Yeah, we've got, for any amendments making today, yeah, we've got to kind of do a laundry list when you adopt it.
Yeah, so the Dressler allocation area will include these dark parcels and then those three here as well.
So, Heidi and Rich, since we're contemplating probably project specific for the area over there that hopefully we can maybe one day work on, that there could be an ordinance or a motion later on. Does it matter if we put it into the area now and then have to pull it out? We'll have to pull it out later. Is that?
So it just depends really on if you ever plan to do any type of financing that would start that, which in the discussion about utilizing your existing TIF to potentially bond to pay for that, I guess would start all of your areas.
So if one day in one of those areas, we were able to purchase land and then put out an RFP and do a project there, at that point in time, we would deal with it.
You could pull it out and
Pull it
make it
out.
its own separate,
So we should include it now no matter if in the future we think we might do something.
I guess they do have a value now. And if, in which, a purchase would happen by the town, it would go to exempt, which would bring the value down,
Right.
which would make the base lower. So maybe we should just leave them removed for now. And then just time it right to add them when necessary,
But these are properties they're thinking about purchasing, right?
potentially.
So really what they should be in the EDA, but not the allocation area.
Oh, yes, so they can spend the funds.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we can add, yeah, we'll add them not to the allocation area, but we'll add them to the consolidated EDA.
Okay.
So that you can use TIF monies on that.
I think in summary, like I said, we're just cleaning up this area again, removing some parcels, creating a new allocation area for the Dressler area here. And then these 3 parcels, as this was discussed, are going to be kept in the economic development area, but they are going to be removed from the allocation area, but they're being kept in the EDA so they can still be, monies can be used on those. So that's the kind of summary of what's going on in the industrial park allocation, expansion allocation, and the Dressler allocation.
And these were identified because they were underperforming. So like
Correct.
128 is the strip center, right? And that's underperforming because it's
Generating negative increment.
half full and has been for years.
Said negative 48,000.
We did, what we did was we work with the auditor's office and get kind of current databases. We do TIF neutralizations every year. We had the current, even pay 22 actually information available. And we went through a parcel by parcel level in all of the TIF areas to see on an individual level what kind of values regenerating from each parcel. And we worked with Julie to see, okay, these parcels are what's really driving your areas. And these are the parcels that are bringing down the values in the areas. And Julie kind of went through and said, these are you kind of worked together and said, these are the parcels that are, really just deteriorating and not going to keep generating value for us. So those are the parcels we're looking at removing. Also some state parcels that, are not ever going to really see any value.
Quick question.
Yeah.
If by some freak accident, 120, parcel 128, they release the remaining 40% of the retail center to the north of the occupied space, it's gonna increase value. When do we add it back in?
So you'd,
Which number did you say?
130, 128,
Okay.
128.
yeah, so you're saying, so if they release it and you,
It's Bill, I'm just saying that somebody comes along and says, hey, I want all 5,000 square foot or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they pay $12, it's vacant now, it would increase value. At what point do we add it back in?
so yeah, you'd want to, if you kind of started hearing about that and you wanted to get it back in your TIF area, you just want to do that kind of as soon as you started to get, kind of hear about that, so you guys could get that in. Because for example, now when we're doing these things, we're setting the base value. It's going to be set at 21, pay 22. So the base values are going to be set at the pay 2022 assessed values.
So it goes back to the prior January.
And what we're saying is 128 has decreased in value.
Correct. Yes. It's decreased in value compared to what it was when the TIF area was created.
And what percentage, when you say decrease, I mean, has it decreased 2% or has it decreased 20%?
Do you have the specific?
At what point in time do we say a decrease is not worth bringing it out? Because we all know it's gonna increase, especially with what we're looking at in that area anyway.
So that
But
one,
what I'm saying is that
yeah, that one is at a negative 48,000.
Dollars. There's no reason not to take any, we call it decrement, decrease in increment. There's no reason not to take anything out at any time because you always have a chance to put it back in. Because the
Even
base
year by
assessment,
year,
whenever you put it
really
back in, goes back to January 1st of the year. So you always have enough time before the next assessment coming up to get it back in.
so the benefit of taking a parcel like that out is what?
So for example, for that one that, over 40,000 of negative increment, that would help the area by that $40,000. Because your a parcel that is seeing $50,000 of positive is being offset by that parcel that's bringing it down. Because the parcels have to, when you're seeing your total increment dollars, it looks at the total value of that area. So if you have half your parcels are losing money and half your parcels are gaining, it has to offset each other, so.
I guess I'm just wondering,
What's the actual substantive dollar amount? Like,
we just, everybody playing with all these different parcels all the time, who's keeping track of all that?
That's that's the issue is getting the timing right. So someone's gotta be aware that that gets leased
Make
back
sure that
up
it's
before.
We've taken a $40,000 hit, that's not, I mean, does that happen every year?
Yeah.
That's not a 40,000, that's just value, right?
Right.
The actual tax dollars are like, what are the tax dollars? Yeah, minimal, right?
Yeah, it's exactly.
Is it like hundreds of dollars or?
3% on
I mean,
top
if you
of
know
that.
the
Thousands,
development's
yeah,
gonna
I mean, yeah,
happen
but
in
yes,
the
it's
next-
not.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we're talking, when I say, that's a great point, when we're talking about 40,000, that's assessed value. We're talking assessment.
I mean, if we stop and put that back in just for that, it would cost more to put it back in your guys' cost than it would.
Right, and that's what, I mean, if you know something's gonna happen in the next year and a half or whatever,
I'm
you
just
can
saying,
leave it in.
it's already a built center with vacant space. You know, it's not like a piece of ground out of
So
37,
it's just
69.
basically depreciating in value, it's been depreciating in value as it's become more
Correct, because
vacant,
it's been there for a long time.
so.
I'm sorry.
And
No,
you know,
no,
just a
appreciate the
renovation of a
questions.
building is a little tricky as far as assessed value goes, because again, the shell is there. So yeah, when it gets occupied, some of that depreciation goes away, and so the value will go up, but it really probably won't go up too much unless there are significant renovations that are made to the building itself.
So even if they fully leased out, that's not gonna change.
I mean, if they don't change the space right now, then no, it'll get rid of a little bit of the depreciation. It's like a vacancy depreciation factor that's
It's
implemented
empty, it's half empty. So if it filled up, it would get
a little bit.
back up to, the assessed value might get back to even instead of a negative 48,000.
Right.
Because they're gonna have to spend a few $100,000 for anyone to go in there.
Well, if I understand it correctly, even if we take it out today and tomorrow somebody comes in, buys it, completely renovates it, adds square footage and fully leases it out, we've still got until the next assessment to add it back in, right?
Right.
Right.
So we've got almost, I mean, depending on when that happens, we've got most of a year
I mean,
to get it back in.
the benefit we have is we're still small enough that someone between the town or board is gonna know that that's happened and go, hey, we need to add that back to the rolls.
Because if something happens to one
But
point
in
six.
10 years, you know, with growth,
To
might not be able to do that.
add the allocation area, so.
Sorry.
You are a growing community, there is a good chance that every year you're gonna be looking at amendments to your TIF area, and that is just kind of what happens. So we're just kind of doing a lot now to pick up from several prior years that have been looked at. So are you okay with keeping it
Yeah,
out then? Don't be sorry, it's a good discussion.
Just another quick question, to go back to our original TIF 101 we had. So when you add something back in, is it a calendar year? So say something happens in November, there's a process to get it back in. Does it just go back to January of that year?
So, like,
January, December?
The base value will get set at the prior assessment year, because it's January 1, it goes back to January 1. So say, the renovations occurred in November, they wouldn't be assessed until the next January 1 if it picked up. So if you set up a TIF area in that year, then the base will get set at the prior January 1, and then you'll capture the next January 1 assessment when the renovation would be picked up in the assessment.
Okay.
But wasn't your question, what's the timing of us being able to add it back in? How long does that take?
So it's just this 4-step
Yeah.
meeting process.
It's actually sooner than that. It's when you pass your declaratory resolution to add it back in, that's the date.
So as long as we could do that, like if the renovations occurred in December, mid-December,
You're fine.
we got to do it though in that half a month.
Yeah.
We got to get a declaratory resolution out in that half a month before the new assessment.
Correct.
Right, okay.
But you can always have special meetings
Yeah.
too, to get it taken care of if you need to. Plan commission is really the one I feel like that's most tricky, but. Okay, any other questions, comments? There?
All right, I'm gonna kind of move to the, the 135 area. So this encompasses the Whiteland Road, State Road 135 area, the expansion area, as well as a 2021 expansion area. So similar to the industrial park, we've got, the original, an expansion, and then a new expansion allocation area. a part of it as well. So you can see here that we've got some parcels over here that we are removing related to the schools. The schools over here, that's some of the parcels we're removing. In this area, also removing a negative parcel over here in this area to clean that up. Removing some, I'm sorry?
So the coloring's kind of hard to see,
Yeah.
so it's like the light pink or yellow.
It's all-
Yeah,
that's
the-
Allocation area.
Yes.
That's all owned by the city.
That's IU.
That's all owned by you.
Julie said they knocked down 2 houses.
So this,
Knocked down forever.
Yeah.
Those are keep Adams, yeah, so.
so this darker color over here, this dark kind of yellowish color over here on the bottom right is proposed to be the new 2021 expansion allocation area. So similar to what we just talked about with Dressler, this would be a new allocation area with a new base date set up for 2021 pay 2022 tax year. So that's here on their bottom right. And then this kind of lighter color is what would remain in your original and expansion Whiteland Road, State Road 135 allocation areas. So again, we're just cleaning up here, just some state parcels, a couple negatives, and then the school parcels.
Stones Crossing. I mean, I've had a broker talk to me about them a whole bunch of them. There's some talk going on there. But I'm just kind of curious why eventually maybe would, if something happens up there. We miss the, what's his name?
Well, the 2 corner parcels in the southwest corner here, yeah, that one and the one next to it they've got big signs up saying, commercial. I don't know if, they're being marketed for commercial purposes, so maybe we ought to grab that corner.
Or we could add it.
We're at it later, but we ought to keep our eye on it for sure. To the north of that's a church, so that's not.
I just wondered why
Yeah,
you
you're
had
talking about the southwest corner of Stones Crossing, 135.
135, I just wonder why we've never gone up there. I guess we have the corridor to go up there if something happens again. We're talking about the same process. And if something does start to happen at the old marsh, just owned by Kroger, then we could react accordingly. And we have that right away.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
You have to
Yeah,
establish
so we
that
didn't
right away.
capture, like when they did the Noble Romans, that,
We missed-
yeah. Yeah.
So the right of way is tends to
Just
be
have-
online. You don't actually have to have the right of
So
way.
you know,
When did that go? That went in this year.
not too long
I
ago.
think it was
Yeah.
19, late 19 maybe.
Well, I know they just opened this year.
What
Probably
was
wasn't
that?
fully completed.
That was supposed to be that burger place, remember? And then.
Right, but they didn't.
Fiasco.
Well, the shell was built probably 20. Are there any more lots over there that are available? Mark?
Well, it depends what they do with Marsh. I mean, you got
Right.
a giant parking lot. which
Yeah.
Probably could be.
Was that Tharp or was that
Tharp was the
original?
Pete Cleveland.
Pete Cleveland has the rest of it.
20 is their
That's when they,
effective.
They will eventually go up there.
The bank is gonna get done into something, because they closed that branch,
oh, the Huntington,
the PNC branch.
PNC.
Yeah, they closed that in August, so that's gonna get redeveloped into something. It may just be another bank. I mean,
Goodwill, we missed that one.
yeah, wow.
I think I was on the RDC then. I'm guilty because. But yeah,
Goodwill's a nonprofit, isn't it?
it might be, but the
I
retail
don't
side
think
is.
they own the real estate though.
Okay.
So I believe
Anyway.
I believe it's a for-profit that owns the real estate. Maybe not that.
Woof, that's assessed at 1.7 mil. The Goodwill is.
Oh.
Ouch.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thoughts on this area?
Why are we taking out the one little Clarion piece, the 273?
This one was severely negative.
There's nothing on it. That's,
There used to be a home on it.
So when it went demolished, that base value, since the area was created, stayed there. It's now the value's, down below, it's severely
Take it
negative.
out, and then when we put it back in, it's the lower.
Exactly.
But we don't have plan right now, we can add it back in.
Right.
Unless you guys would want to. Right now, it's just. So there's a little notch.
But you don't take it out and put it in all at the same time. It has to be separate resolution. I mean, on a resolution, can you take it out and put it right back in and that resets it? During the same process?
I think it has,
Reset the base on one parcel, on that should. Not
Uh,
good, but I've never done it before, but.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
know
so.
that it's
I think it's a little too clever.
Just hit reset anytime.
The reset button, right?
Reset button, easy or whatever.
well, we just don't want to miss putting that little chunk back in if that whole thing blows up and gets redeveloped, because Clarion owns all of that, so. I mean, that little piece probably would hurt without not having it.
Maybe we could just remove from the allocation area.
I don't mind, it's another one of those things we need to keep an eye on, that,
Yeah, I think there's several pieces that we're keeping an eye on that we'll eventually probably put them all back in.
Okay, Robin's in charge of that.
what's our savings?
I'm doing a
You said
plaza
we
right
wanted to-
now.
By pulling that out, what are we doing? I mean, the one's 40 grand negative or whatever,
Yeah,
which
so-
seems like a lot, but.
I think this one was
146.
It's 146, or 146,000 of incremental assessed value. I think that tax rate's around, I'd have to, around $2 though. So, it's a couple thousand dollars.
It would be 1% of the residential house.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't want us down, I just,
Sure.
I didn't know why we were just picking on that.
If it's owned by the hospital, it's probably.
Well, they're not for profit.
right, but it offset, it's,
Another residential. Anyway.
Yeah, so it's still at 2%.
Negative 146,000, again, it's bringing down your rental assessed value in the other portion of your area.
I'm good with taking it out, we just need to.
Sure.
Chunk it back in if something blows up there.
and one thing I do want to mention, so these parcels are being removed. I did want to confirm in the declaratory that all the parcel numbers are correct here, that we are accurately showing that all these parcels are being removed in the parcel list.
Yeah, we need to update.
To make sure that all the schools, because I know these are schools and a lot of them are exempt, most of them are exempt. I don't think all of them, but we are removing a handful of schools. And again, the Clarion parcel, I want to make sure that that list is accurate.
There are two
Here,
projects
so.
we need to add to the declaratory capture.
I think that's the State Road 135 area. I think the last map I walked through today is the new P&L allocation area and kind of the economic development area. So, this is a larger map here. So what I want to talk through here is the lighter color you're seeing is what would be proposed as the economic development area. So again, as we've spoken about, that would be where you could spend the money within this area. The darker shade would be what is the P&L allocation area, and is where the project we've been speaking about today would be located, and where the money, the increment would be generated from, where we're going to be running numbers on, and where that tax increment would be coming from. So we'd just be looking at those three parcels that project's going to be located on as the allocation area, but having this larger area to be able to spend that money if that so comes to it. So this is the P&L allocation area map and economic development area that's proposed. So I don't know if there's any questions here with that.
I guess I have a question. If you say that again, so what you're saying is the light color is the allocation and the dark color is where we're drawing it from.
The light color is the economic development area,
Okay.
but the dark color is where we're drawing it from. That's the allocation area.
Okay.
So anything that's potentially coming along soon, we would want in the, where we're drawing from, right?
Yes, if you wanted to add it to an allocation area, if you thought something was coming and you wanted it in an allocation area,
Okay.
yeah, you wanted to draw from it.
It's my understanding that this art studio has been sold,
Did ask.
and,
I know the broker did it, and I know the seller didn't.
yeah. And it's my understanding he's putting possibly like a coffee house. It's not this art studio, the
Is
white
the
building.
structure gonna stay the same?
Yeah, I don't think that they're planning on remodeling or, oh, well, I mean, they'll do inside work to it, but like they're not gonna expand it or anything like that. So that would be something that you want to put into,
That assessed valuation is $75,200, it says on there. Yes, it's sold for over 300. Just so I don't know when that gets picked up from a value increase standpoint, but
Yeah, so when they go to assess it, they'll definitely look at, recent similar sales of properties, to increase,
do they go to the sales?
or the land, probably
Do
land.
they go to the sales disclosures when they look at that?
They
I mean,
do
when
look
the
at, that's
property,
a
when the
part of,
property actually sells.
yeah, that's a part of the assessment system. So you could see some slight increase from that. Again, it takes
Takes a while.
a significant renovation, I would say, to generate much incremental assessed value to make it worth it.
But what if it gets reassessed from 70 to 300 because of the sale?
That's what that's what I
It could. Should.
Yeah, it should. I mean, I think you should add it in. I mean,
So do you think, I would suggest adding it as a different allocation area though, since you're gonna pledge.
Yeah.
And the same buyer who bought that
P&L project.
is buying another parcel, another building right across, south of the P&L, north of, north of Harriman. So,
I mean, what you
people are
could
moving,
do,
I mean, it's just happening, I mean, it's
Just
just.
make it downtown allocation area.
well, you could connect it to an existing allocation area instead of creating its own. You're looking at me like I'm nuts.
Which area are you thinking?
Well, I mean, isn't this near another area? Pretty near?
It's near the industrial park,
Right.
sort of.
I mean,
But I do envision that there will be eventually more allocation areas set up in the downtown area.
Yeah.
But I just think that it should be separate than P&L because you're gonna pledge that.
No, I agree.
But-
I agree with that.
And I would say, I envision for you all that what happens downtown could be project-specific sites that you wanna pledge and incentivize folks to locate there. So you could have multiple allocation areas in your downtown.
Or you could call it the downtown allocation area, and then when others come on, you could add those to the downtown.
I would recommend doing that.
That's what I want.
Unless it's truly project-specific and there's an incentive required and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, then
Right.
we can have that discussion when that point in time comes, but.
So that's added to the list of amendments here.
Yeah.
Somebody keeping
Could
a,
somebody point to what
somebody
which
keeping
parcel it
a
is?
list?
Yeah. Parcel 4, there. Anything else going on down here we need to know?
There's a lot of rumors.
Rumors? When they become not rumors, let us know.
Is that all rumors in the allocation area?
Okay, so we'll add that into this declaratory resolution too. As its own separate allocation area, and you'll have a different color shading on this map for that area.
So we're not doing a downtown allocation area.
So that one parcel we'll call the downtown allocation area, so if at some point you wanna expand that, then more than likely those parcels would be added to the downtown allocation area.
And the P&L is always gonna just be its own.
Right, except for if some project needs an incentive, then you might want to set up its own allocation area just for that project, like what you're doing for P&L. Because where it comes tricky is if you need to pledge TIF to a project, it's cleaner if it's its own allocation area, like what we're doing at P&L.
Okay.
So you can kind of set it aside. Because for bonds, you can pick and choose what allocation areas you want to pledge to pay the bonds. If you ever need to do bonds. Okay. Any other thoughts here?
The only other thing was back to taxing it again, they were gonna, what, is it parcel 94? That they were gonna do that's down the road a bit, but
They, That's next after.
Right. Because right now, tax man's on 89, 90, 91, 92,
Right.
and they. I
Well,
think they're
even
gonna-
more than that. They go all the way down to, how far down are you? They go all the way down to like 100.
They're gonna develop something.
What to do for
That's the next,
More like 100.
after, you know.
Yeah, they go all the way down to 112.
It's on the other side of the.
Yeah, they go, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the grade.
So they have kind of a phase 2 and a phase 3. Phase 2 is 94. I don't believe it's 106, right? It's just 94. And then the phase 3 is like 97 all the way down to, what do you think it is, 112?
Roughly.
We can add those later. That can be part of that downtown.
That might be a
And that's if
specific.
if down the road they do
Or
something.
or you just do it to the P and L one.
Right, so that's what I was gonna say, so if something does happen down the road and you, from this site, have to, you know, pledge something to incentivize them, and you add this to the P&L allocation area, that obviously increases your tip, so that you can like pay off that incentive earlier if tip is generated.
What about the area that, I mean, Johnson's had announced something, like a new building, I think, or reconstruction of that, but I don't know if anything has moved forward on that.
Nothing's been filed.
So something else to keep an eye on.
Need to,
Where is that list? I haven't
an eye
written it
list,
down.
the 2 eyes.
Mark put me in charge and I haven't written any
That's
of that
why
down.
in the back of your packet, you now get the development update that shows you what's kind of in the pipeline as far as their filings.
Goes a spot, have them all.
All right. Any other questions about that? So we have a resolution that we need to discuss with amendments.
I have all the amendments written down, so
Great.
approve as amended? Can they approve as amended?
Yes.
Okay. So the resolution that's been prepared for us will then be forwarded to Plan Commission and then to the Town Council, and then back to us for final approval. Is that correct procedurally?
Plan Commission, Town Council, then back to you.
Okay. And so we need a motion to approve Resolution 2021-04 as amended.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-04, as stated and as amended.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, fantastic. Next item is Plaza Design RFP responses, and that will be our RFP committee. Robin and CJ, who wants the floor?
I'll let you
Sure.
start. I'll jump in there.
Yeah, so we had, 3 firms, respond to the RFP, REA, Structure Point, and Shrewsbury, which all came in.
Did you guys got that right? Got the
Yeah.
RFPs?
They were included.
They're in the package.
What's your phone? I've got a ton of
And Rob and I heard their proposals, and I think at this point, Rob and I would like to make a recommendation for the
Oh, for that.
committee to consider moving forward potentially REA or structure. But we're happy to expand on the industries. Any questions that you might have?
I have not had a chance to dive deep into these yet, so.
Yeah, I think we can give our high-level synopsis. I think REA has some pretty significant experience in smaller towns in the area of Frankfurt. They did a project in Mooresville. They've had some pretty heavy involvement in Bloomington. And then Structure Point, I think, also has some good experience in just the thought process of both of those firms and what we're looking for and what they can provide, I think is in line with what Rob and I were thinking. I think Shrewsbury, there were gonna be a couple of firms working together. And we didn't think that might be more prudent challenges than potentially working with the other two. And then timeline wise, I think REA's timeline was reasonable. I think we have something in February to look at. Structure Point was a little longer, but I think that's because they baked in a lot of things that I don't think we necessarily need as part of it. So I think we could work back with them to shorten that timeline if we wanted to.
I think we kind of talked about the meetings that, there was a lot of community involvement and all of that with, Structure Point, but with this, it's just more of an open area. We're not putting any necessarily, you're not putting water parks and things like that, those kind of things in there that the community really would want to have, decide what was more important to them. It's just kind of gonna be an open area, so I don't know how much, other than, materials and things, aesthetics, that we would have the community involved in. As such, so, and that's what was taking a lot of the time. I don't know, I just don't think that there's a whole lot we can do to add it there. That would be beneficial.
If you don't mind, can I speak about the firms?
Yep.
So, if you have it narrowed down to REA and, Structure Point, there's not a bad choice. I've worked with both extensively, so I would tell you that you're not gonna go wrong, you're not gonna be, unhappy. The advantage of using REA is more creative, more costly, and they will destroy your budget.
So they will or won't?
Way over your budget.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they did the plaza and they did the downtown plaza in Carmel. It was like $1 million over the budget. They did the right next to the city county building, that part. I read about how over budget that was. So they're not really thinking from a budgetary perspective. So your biggest hurdle with them will be to hold them to the fire. They're also not, they don't have any engineering or survey or anything. They truly are a design firm, but they're really creative and good. Not creative. They'll be closer to your budget, but then they have those other assets. No matter what, it's all how you manage them. But there's not a wrong choice. I want to give you my perspective, and I full faith and disclosure. I've worked with all of them on multiple projects the last decade. So.
Do you have a recommendation between the two?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's kind of like, do
There's
you
pros
want
and
more,
cons to both.
yeah, do you want more creativity with needing to hold feet to the fire and most likely going over? Or do you want more of a full in-house suite of people that will have all the expertise we need to get the project done kind of probably on time, or at least the proposal?
The proposal for Structure Point was an 8-month,
Yeah.
was gonna take them 8 months.
It's too long.
Whereas REI was gonna have it to us in February. February, correct?
Yeah, and I think that had an earlier response to the RFP, so
Yeah.
probably more in March.
So with REI, will they act as the project manager and they'll sub out all the things they don't have in-house? Is that, and that's where the,
I see, I think.
Yeah.
But the,
I would imagine from a schedule perspective that you can dictate what you want. The other thing I would bring up is, you're not gonna be able to start in February or March in any case, based on the terms of our agreement.
right,
So, you have to take that into consideration, plus weather, right? So
Or longer
Close-
timeline.
I'm sorry, when are we closing on that?
we need to close by the end of the year. So I think Joy and I were just talking about, we need to have a conversation with council and then with park board to figure out if there's some way to manipulate, or not manipulate, it's not the right term, with way to massage some of the funds in a way that, you know, with you guys having more priorities now, when we first started this project, I don't know if there was another penny on the board, right? Now we're talking about buying land and other things, so I think there's a conversation of where the money can or should come from to buy it, because there's certain park funds that can only be used for certain things. And then eventually, I mean, this is the goal here, this is the park, so that makes sense. So I think we need to get that determined in the next 30 days so that we can close by the end of the year. I believe from a legal perspective and due diligence, we've done everything we need to do.
Do we as a board need to be doing anything on that other than being prepared to fund it if that's the case?
I think you're authorized for everything you need to be right now.
I think so.
So I think it's just figuring out who's got the check and closing, setting a closing date, getting the documentation completed. And then we need to think about the marketing and that whole aspect, right, of the project and how we want to announce it and where we want to go. So it'd be good to pick, I guess my advice would be to pick someone who's your designer sooner rather than later so that you can roll that all up into one and even have something preliminary.
I personally like REA, but again, it has its pros and cons. I thought they've done some neat stuff, and they're still been able to, always the examples they showed maintained the essence of each of these small downtowns.
I would be happy with both, but I would be concerned about the budget issues with REA.
Does either one of the groups have any key members of their team so far of the team?
Yeah,
Thanks,
Shrewsbury,
Shrewsbury, I thought
Shrewsbury
Shrewsbury.
did. I think at one point they had some,
We're not considering Shrewsbury.
No.
What about the two you guys? And I don't know.
REA doesn't, they don't have, at least not the two individuals that came and interviewed. Instruction Point brought a team, and I don't think any of them had roots in Bartersville.
That's kind of tossing.
I mean, is this something we need to do this? I feel like I don't really have enough information to get some of the document issues earlier in the week. I'll have a chance to look through this. So,
Or we would like a more definitive recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you have to decide today, but I think you need to dive in and probably decide by your next meeting.
But what's gonna change between today and the next meeting?
Well,
I feel like I'd be more informed because
Well,
I'll have a chance to look through the various RFPs. I just haven't had a chance to look through that now.
Gotcha.
that's fine. You could go like on the scheduling question, I think you could go back to structure point and say, you want to update your schedule, this isn't gonna work.
Well, they did, in the meeting, they did say that they can look at that. They did say they can't look at that and they can pare it down a little bit. I don't know that they're gonna pare it down to
Would
February.
you guys be able to
But-
maybe just have that quick conversation with them between now and the next meeting that, hey, we need a tighter timeline in order to be full consideration?
Yeah, and with REA, you could go back and say, Kevin, we're gonna have a budget, we want,
Right. It's
if we
basically,
want to stick to a budget, how are you gonna help us do that and still have creativity?
exactly.
But I mean, I think you can get those two answers and then have enough time to come back and go through everything, make an educated decision.
To do that,
Yeah.
and then
And then we can.
Yeah.
put it on the agenda for the next meeting to have a consideration and vote.
I think from council and Julie, our task will be to check out or and figure out.
Well,
Do you want to take structure point? I can take REA.
Yeah.
well, on behalf of the commission, thank both of you for all the time you put into get that done.
And I highly recommend flipping through those. I know you guys will, but
Yeah.
flip through there's some interesting and neat stuff in there. There's some terms of ideas and timelines and whatnot.
All right, I know Jamie needs to leave.
I was able to sustain a little bit longer.
Oh, you're okay. Well, I want to, and at least let me bump up because it's the last voting item that I know of is we need a motion for an authorization for myself to negotiate on behalf of the RDC for certain parcels of real estate.
Motion to authorize Eric to negotiate on behalf of C4 parcels.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
We have updates from the Department of Development Department.
Those documents were in your packet, and it's just updates from Plan Commission of items that are coming down the pipeline. So if you want to review those and have any questions, let us know.
All right, and then update regarding council's priority areas of growth and current town projects.
Andrew, you want to talk about your priority areas or any reminders on that?
I don't think anything's really changed. Oh, November 12th. We are going to do a trip on November 12th. 5 of you are invited. We will be going in a van on a tour of, right now, Whitestown, Westfield, Carmel, and Fishers. The goal will be to leave at 9:30 from here. Lunch will be included, and we'll be back here by 2:30. So it's a driving tour to go look at those areas of growth that they've seen, look at a handful of parks and plazas and just their downtown areas and do all of that together as a group. So if you can confirm if you make that would be number 4, Friday. I think it would be very beneficial to go see at least 3 or 4 different parks, plaza areas along with their downtown.
You said Whitestown, Westfield, Carmel.
Whitestown, Westwood, Carmel, and Fishery.
But to comply with open door law, if more than 2 of you go, you have to promise not to deliberate on or discuss any of your ongoing projects, no decisions on the side.
Can't vote while we're on the bus.
Well, it's
And more than that.
more than
yes.
voting.
Yeah, we're going on a tour.
Yeah.
So,
Who's keeping the head count and who do we reply to for our SVPs?
Just send them to us and we'll take care of it.
and if you can, let us know in the next 10 days.
I'm good, I just checked.
So, because there's limited space. So if you can't go, then we'll probably invite some others. Yeah, I'd like commission members or right now, Julie, myself, Joe, Susie has a spot. She's on vacation and I promised her. So, and Eric, so there's 9 total spots. So you'll,
Yeah, I'd like to go. This is part of the plan, this is part of the plan. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can, if you can let us know in the next week to 10 days, so then we can offer to somebody else, then appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, are there any claims to approve under the budget claims review?
There were a couple of items, legal items for the legal firm. And, there was an invoice for, your annual dues for AIM. And then, yeah, I believe that was it.
All right. Can we approve those as a packet or do we need to? Yeah. All right, so there's invoice from RAI for it's the Redevelopment Association of Indiana for our annual dues and a legal voucher fee payment from Fred Beck, or Deputy Fred Beck. Anybody have a motion to approve those items?
I'll make a motion to approve the items.
Second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Aye.
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 All right.
And if I can make one announcement before we close for the day.
Sure.
The town will be having an event on October 30th. Be our trunk or treat event from 6 to 8 out here on Main Street. So I would love to see you and your families out there.
All right, our next meeting is Thursday, November 11th, same time, same place. Do I have anything else before we adjourn?
I would add, we did put together a feasibility for like the land purchase in the downtown plaza. If we want to talk about it the next meeting, it's totally fine. If you want a copy, I can give it to you to take a look at.
That would be helpful.
So it's, take your guys' lead on that.
Yeah, could you email that out, let us all take a look at it, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody want a hard copy?
I mean, if you've got hard copies,
Yeah.
sure.
We can make copies.
Oh, no, we've got.
No problem. Okay, great. Yeah, I think I'll. There's so much yesterday. There was a lot.
Yeah, that's all right.
They were emailed, I believe, to you last night, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Did you send it?
We said,
I did.
said you'd talk about it this morning.
Okay.
Kind of a,
Yeah, I know there's been a lot at this meeting.
There was a lot
Information
going on.
exchange.
Yeah.
Official adjournment?
Yeah, sorry, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Did everybody get the second set of appraisals?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of